Karen's HOA had consistently escalated their tactics, but this time they overstepped in a way that bordered on spectacularly reckless. Without permission, they began constructing a $12 million mall on my farmland, imagining that I would be powerless to stop them. They assumed they could profit off my land, expand their influence, and force me into compliance with their arbitrary regulations. What they failed to consider was that every step they took played directly into my hands. The first signs of construction came early one morning. Bulldozers, trucks, and construction crews moving across what had once been pristine farmland. Karen, clipboard in hand, tried to assert authority, shouting at my farmhands that they were interfering with approved development. She didn't know that the approval she cited existed only in her own mind, and that the property deeds, permits, and zoning rights were all firmly under my control. I watched from the farmhouse balcony as the crew dug the first foundations, shaking my head in amusement. While Karen thought she was in control, I had already begun a multi-layered counter-strategy. First, I issued a formal cease and desist notice, meticulously citing property deeds, zoning laws, environmental protections, and federal agricultural regulations. Copies were sent to local authorities, the HOA board, and every media outlet in the county. Karen's HOA assumed secrecy would protect them. They were wrong. Next, I implemented a strategic trap. The land they had started excavating was part of an older irrigation system I had designed decades earlier. Beneath the surface were a series of water channels, reservoirs, and overflow systems capable of redirecting runoff and floodwater safely across the property. I remotely activated valves, ensuring that any unauthorized excavation would flood key areas without causing permanent damage to the land itself. Within hours, the construction site became a quagmire, rendering machinery inoperable and halting progress entirely. Karen's construction crews were stranded, mud-covered, and bewildered. Meanwhile, I leveraged public perception. Drones captured every moment, documenting the HOA's attempted intrusion, the halted construction, and the flooding caused by their unauthorized activity. I published the footage to social media and local news, highlighting Karen's reckless and illegal overreach. Headlines quickly emerged: HOA attempts $12 million mall on private farm, construction halts in muddy disaster. Public opinion, once indifferent, shifted sharply in my favor. Karen became a laughingstock overnight. I didn't stop there. Knowing that the HOA had assumed financial leverage, I made a bold move. I offered to sell the land to legitimate developers, those with full permits and legal access, under my terms. Within weeks, the property was sold for $1 billion sum, far exceeding the $12 million investment Karen had assumed she could co-opt. The transaction was publicly celebrated, cementing my status as the legal and financial authority. Karen and her HOA, meanwhile, were left holding worthless permits, flooded construction zones, and humiliation. To finalize the lesson, I documented the event with a full press release. The farmland remained protected, the HOA's illegal actions exposed, and my legal, financial, and strategic dominance clearly demonstrated. Karen attempted to justify her actions, claiming community benefit, but the evidence was overwhelming. Her overreach had resulted in personal financial loss, public embarrassment, and legal exposure. By evening, the farmland was restored. The irrigation systems were reset, machinery removed, and construction halted permanently. Neighbors, investors, and media outlets understood the full scope of the HOA's audacity and my preparation. The lesson was indelible. Assume authority without ownership, and every move can be turned against you with precision, legality, and creativity. Karen had assumed she could build a mall on private land with impunity. Instead, she had set in motion a sequence of events that ended with financial gain, legal vindication, and public humiliation for her and her HOA. Her audacity had been transformed into my strategic advantage, proving once again that preparation, foresight, and legal mastery far outweigh arrogance and overconfidence. By nightfall, my farmland was quiet once more, restored to pristine condition, and my property rights reinforced for all time. Karen's HOA had learned the hard way that recklessness on private land invites consequences far beyond imagination. and that crossing someone prepared, resourceful, and legally empowered is always a mistake.